Whenever you're ready, get the ball rolling.
I'm like confused. I'm usually on that side. I'm left-handed. All right.
I
Call
will
this meeting to order. Okay, so call to order. Roll call. Thank you.
Mrs. Metropolis,
Here.
Mrs. Levazik,
Here.
Mrs.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, introduction of guests.
Yes, we have our
Lots of admin.
whole admin team here, and then we have Julie Baker representing Korea in the second row.
Okay,
welcome.
so,
We will have to do the secretary.
Oh, yes.
oh,
Can we have a motion to approve a secretary pro temp?
I'll make a motion to have Joanna do it. I'll second that motion.
I knew that was coming. Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Levazik
Aye.
and Mrs. Metropolis.
Aye. Like that. I don't know where my pen. All right, so 2.0, the approval of the consent agenda. So do I need to read all of these or just it's the minutes?
Mhm.
Minutes of August 8th, 2023, open session, minutes of August 8th, 2023, closed, minutes of August 22nd, special meeting, open session, minutes of August 22nd, 2023, special meeting, closed session. And then the financial reports, the payroll bills.
Should be good.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Mrs. William Atkinson, Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Levazik,
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
And Mrs. Metropolis.
Aye. All right, on to 3.0.
All right, well, welcome everyone. It's hard to believe that when we met last time, we were just having open house and we had not started school. So a lot of wonderful things have happened since then, but glad we can come together. And if you remember, we will also be together on Monday evening. We haven't been together for a while, and then we'll get 2 times in a week. So looking forward to it. Just kind of going through. Hello, Mrs. Lamel. Just going through my superintendent's reports. First off is the PTA report. We are down currently to 1 officer in the PTA, Mrs. Erica Willer, who has been with us for a while. Her other 2 people are no longer in her district from graduation and some other things. So she is currently trying to get the PTA up and running, still planning on it. She's got some people out there who are interested. So typically we'd be talking now, our first event is usually the PTA bingo. She is hoping that we will have our first meeting in October for the PTA, and then I will have some more information for you at that point. So very happy that someone is still looking to kind of carry that charge. 3.2 school department reports. You'll see in there a lot of pictures from the start of the school year. I think my favorite is Detective Sloan walking someone who maybe comes up to his knee to class on the first day. And that's why we love having Detective Sloan here when he's just having a good time with the kids. So enrollment report, I was actually a little surprised with this when we look at our class sizes. Our enrollment as of August 31st was 1,405 students. That's 23 students down from the close of last school year. And I've said it before, it's always like, well, all right, you're losing enrollment. You look at numbers. Well, when we look at kindergarten and second grade, our numbers, our class sizes are still very large. So we continually both at Central and Lawn look at that second and kindergarten to see where those are. So we'll continue to watch those, and we'll just kind of watch that number overall. Still trending over the last couple of years. We're pretty close to breaking even over the last 3 or 4 years, where other districts since COVID have just dropped off. You're talking like 15-20% of their students. We have not seen that at all. But a lot of schools out a little bit further east and south have seen that. Vacant positions and possible staffing needs. We are still working to fill our special education positions at Findlay Junior High. Other than that, we are in pretty good shape, always looking for our paraprofessionals. You will notice that in the list there are some positions there that are currently filled. by long-term substitutes that we've talked about needing to pass that test. Legally, we still need to continue to post for those positions and interview when people apply for those. So that's why those are still on there at this time. School opening updates, really, I could talk a lot. I've shared a lot about the good things. Really, both staff and students have seemed to come back this school year with a really positive vibe, which has been wonderful. And one thing that I know has been very positive, especially for Jeff, Julie, and I, who are always doing bus duty, and Julie's out there for hours at a time. We are down to one bus run. They've been running on time. And we just look at our students. We had especially junior high students who were having to come 20, 25 minutes early and sitting there doing nothing, and then having to stay 20 and 25 minutes. And just from a positive experience, from a discipline experience, it has been a lot better. And just talking with other districts locally, especially like in our conference and in our co-op, we're about the only district who's saying that about our buses right now, that it's going well. So hopefully that will continue, but right now I don't see any reason why that would not. So next is 3.6, the submitted grants. Usually this is something we just say, all right, we're submitting all the grants, the paperwork's in there. But I just want to give a brief one sentence overview for each of them because we obviously have some new members. Title I is a grant that we typically pay a lot of paraprofessional salaries and benefits through. So that you'll see in there. Title II, I call this the Megan Nothnagel grant because it is all of the PD and materials and speakers. So that is that. And then Title III is our Caroline grant. That is our EL grant. And then we have the IDEA grants, which is early childhood. We look at our tuition for out of district students, and that is our Carey grant, which is pretty fun if you think about it. It's good to know. So those are in there in great detail. The nice thing about the grants is we submit them. You have to give a pretty general idea of what you want to have, and you have to get that approved, but you are able to make amendments throughout the year if you see a need in a different way. So we will ask for those to be approved later in the meeting. And then 3.7 is our junior high outdoor ed field trips. Every year, other than 2 years from COVID, our sixth graders at Findlay Junior High have the opportunity to go to Camp McLean in Burlington, Wisconsin. This is something I heard about even when I came to interview here, like how much the kids love doing that. I know our administrators have gone on that trip. Some of our teachers have gone on that trip. Last year, we did not have good attendance at all, and we've started to see a decline. Last year, unfortunately, it was during Eid, so that right there took a lot of students who were unable to go. We are hopeful to still offer this again this year, trying to make sure that it does not fall on Eid, and that we can really monitor to see what the student attendance is going to be. Is it just something that has run its course and maybe we need to look at something else, not an overnight, but an all-day team building trip somewhere else? But we would like to give it one more shot this year. The district did have to cover some of the costs last year when we did not have enough people attend. I think we had to cover about $2,000, which we did have at the time in the account. But again, it is a wonderful experience for the kids. So we really want to try to make this work. The reason this comes for board approval is in our policy, anything that would be considered an overnight type of trip does need board approval. But I wanted to see if anyone had any questions about this for myself, or Jeff and Julie have been running it for a very long time, so they're probably just as qualified to answer those.
Maybe just a suggestion. I mean, obviously, if I'm a seventh grader and I went on the trip and you're a sixth grader, I brag about it. And because we had that dip because of COVID, I know that we can't get like someone who is a sophomore in high school, but you could always get someone who was a sophomore in high school who has a sibling, maybe to do a little video, and you play it to the sixth graders and their, extra time or whatever, to talk about what a fun it is to kind of amp it up so that it's more of a visual and you hear a peer talking about it, because having that year off and not having people have the buzz about it around school, how much fun it was, that might be a way to entice kids to go back. Because, I don't think a lot of them get an opportunity to go on an overnight with this type of thing or be away from mom and dad. It's a great growing experience, I think, too. So
Yep.
It's a fantastic thing to offer. So
How do they do the fundraising for it?
Yeah, it's not fundraising. It's they find out from there what the cost is going to be with the bus, and then it's paid for by the
That's
state.
it.
So that's part of it.
No, so we have to guarantee a certain number by a certain date without exactly knowing how many are gonna go, and that has really not been a problem before. You always had easily the minimum that would require. Last year, we didn't meet the minimum.
Oh,
So good question.
what about chaperones?
So that's usually our staff, and we actually don't seem to have many issues getting staff. The staff enjoys going because it's building those outside relationships with kids, and either Jeff or Julie goes every year.
And there's a handful of parents that usually go there too.
Okay, all right. So I will be asking for approval for this year to go ahead and offer that trip. And we'll let you know for sure if it is approved, how we do in our recruiting and what it looks like this year.
Looking for a motion then?
Not at this
Later?
time,
Okay.
later, yep. 3.8, just so you know, we do have, I'll be going down to Springfield for the Superintendent's Conference. It's the IASA conference. It's the week of September 26th. I usually try to get down there Tuesday night because I've got one that starts first thing in the morning on Wednesday, and I am there through Friday. It's really been a wonderful conference to go to. Sometimes I go to ones and I'm not very happy with the PD that I get, but it's nice to see superintendents, not just from this area, but from around the state, and to be learning. So I appreciate the board supporting me going down for that. And then 3.9, bullying policy updates. There's been a fairly large update in the state of Illinois that, like all Illinois legislation, wasn't completely thought out when they decided to approve it in July and put it into effect. They want us to change policies. However, all of the policy writers have not had a chance to actually write the policies. So I have contacted both of our attorney firms to try to get an opinion of kind of what we should do. And they said it is required by the state of Illinois that every other year the board approves the bullying policy by September 30th. So this is our year that we have to approve a policy. But there's no like new written policy out there. So they said we should approve the policy we currently have, with the understanding that our administrators should still follow the idea of the law in the new bullying policy. And the main thing to take out of the new bullying policy will be that administrators have to contact everyone involved within 24 hours when there is bullying reported. There's got to be an investigation. There's going to be specific paperwork, and we are actually setting up with our one law firm. It's going to be an hour-long Zoom session with just the building administrators to kind of go over what that paperwork needs to look like. Because this is going to be a legal pitfall for many districts, because you need to make sure you've got all your I's and your T's crossed. Thankfully, I know we've been doing this in terms of the phone calls. We always let parents know when there's these things going on, but I think for us, it's going to be now making sure we have the right paperwork from the attorneys and things so that we have it documented correctly. Joanna?
Since we're on the bullying topic, I was thinking, is there any assembly that could maybe speak to the children? I know Southpaw.
That one, I don't know if I can support that one.
I believe Clark might come with him.
Clark the Cub would be okay.
Possibly Staley.
And I will say every year we try to get a bullying assembly to be one of them. And I know we try to switch it up. I know Staley has been here for sure. That was just last year. So I don't know if we have figured out what we're doing this year. But we definitely, that's something we will have.
It's good to have a visual.
Yeah, just not a giant yellow Southpaw.
Do they do snowball anymore? Where the high school comes in and snowflake, they don't do that anymore, huh? That was always a great thing.
Have we ever had that here?
Yes.
Not for my 70.
Oh.
Yes, when I was here.
Yeah,
Fran, did we ever have it?
when I was in high school as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
That was just another like caring thing. I did it in junior high, and then in high school, the high school kids who are a part of Snowball come back and they're leaders, and it entices them. It's a retreat in high school too, but sometimes for kids who struggle, especially kids who struggle, a bullying seminar is great, but like that's a time for the kids who are struggling to bond and talk. And I don't know if it even still goes on anymore. I just remember it being super impactful when I was in junior high. I lost my dad, and it was just like a nice thing. And I always go back to it and recommend kids in high school to join if they're struggling.
Yeah. Do we know if Richards does Snowflake still? Snowball?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think every school still does Snowball. I don't know if Snowflake. is something
Just
now.
to clarify, so when you say that they have to call, is it every instance of bullying, or is it just the bullying that involves threats or
And,
self-harm?
and those are all the things they're still trying to get figured out.
And it has to be, I would imagine that if it was about self-harm or any type of harm to themselves or to others, are the social workers involved then,
Oh, yeah,
or
we
you
would
guys
always.
call on that?
It would really depend on the situation,
Yeah, okay.
but they would definitely be in collaboration with the social workers. So, but that again is what I think the frustrating, I understand why it's being put into place and I think it's important. But it needs to come with the actual, what the guidelines are.
Bullying is also one of the grayest and terrible words
Mhm.
out there, because anybody can say anything about anything, and it was bullying. That's a whole lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
Should they not define what bullying is?
Yeah.
They'll
Well,
be
it's
on
all
the phone
interpretation too.
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
And I-
She
ambiguous.
looked at me funny. I
And
get
I know for me, I've been to 4 different conferences or hour-long PD Zoom sessions and no one has the answer yet. So
So they're working on it?
that's,
Is there any like date?
I was told, they guarantee it by the spring. Yes, yes.
Guaranteed.
So we will obviously always, when we're not sure, like be on the side of caution, like over communicate. But until we know, that's
You just
kind of
nip
where
it
we're at.
in the bud from the get-go. You don't know what it could turn into.
And I actually have no other for once. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Nagel.
Yes, so 4.1 ELA textbook adoption committee. So we have, we met as an ELA textbook adoption committee a couple times last year and did some learning around best practices in reading, writing, and fluency, all of the components in reading and the different information that's out there circling in the world of education when it comes to ELA curriculums and resources and instruction. And so this year we met once already. We meet again tomorrow, and we are the first 3 meetings hearing from different resource companies about their programs, their resources, and how to implement them so that the committee can determine which 2 they would like to pilot this year. So great feedback after the last one about lots of questions are swirling around. I actually met with one of the teachers at the junior high who was on the committee, kind of wanting to talk about it further. Actually requesting that we meet more often after we hear these presentations. So as a collective group, we can kind of have an open conversation about what were some of the strengths of the resources and what were some of the things that they did not think would be best for Chicago Ridge. So the enthusiasm behind it is so great. So we're looking forward to tomorrow. We've already heard from Wit and Wisdom, which is through Great Minds. It aligns to our foundations, which is our phonics curriculum resource. And then tomorrow we're hearing from McGraw-Hill, Wonders and Study Sync are their resources. So really great things, and the committee is hopefully going to have in the spring the recommendation for the full adoption for the board. Hopefully at that April meeting, we hope to have that completed for all of you. 4.2, the assessment calendar is in your packet. We are doing NWEA reading and math assessments again 3 times a year. So that hasn't changed for kindergarten through 7th grade. They're actually going through that right now in all the buildings, which just started yesterday. Our 8th graders just do fall and winter assessments for NWEA. And then our kindergarten through 5th also do a fluency. So they're doing a lot of reading. They have microphones, they read a story, they read a passage. It records them. So it's a really great resource, but we're hoping this year as we continue again, just like we've done in the past, to look at that data, really strengthen that this year, looking at that data and hopefully having that data drive the instruction for small group and small groups in our junior high, and that what I need time at the elementary, being able to use that data to show the growth of the students and then the achievement, of course, as well. One thing that we are going to reinstate this year, we didn't get it rolled out last year, but is the Review 360, which is a behavior a universal behavior screener that the kindergarten through fifth grade teachers complete on behalf of the students, and then the junior high students take that on behalf of themselves. And it will just flag different areas that then we share that data out with our teachers and our social workers to see if we can do some more proactive or more, support for the students in different ways based on the results of that. So we're looking forward to get that up and running, and that's done 3 times a year. And you'll see in the assessment calendar, there are a lot of different assessments for different purposes, whether it's kindergarten for the state, the kids assessment, or pre-K data, things like that. Any questions for either of those students?
Can I just ask a
Of
quick
course.
question? I'm an English teacher, so I was just curious. I'm assuming it's been a while since we had textbooks and we're doing it for different reasons. I know there's all kind of little perks that come with new adoption. Some get used, some never get used. I am not been on an adoption committee a long time. Are they offering like EL services, like translation and stuff embedded within the textbook, supplementary materials? We just have such a high population, and I'm curious if that's something that is part of any of the packages, like handouts or translated things like that, just to help students who are transitioning into like gen ed, if there's more complex stories. Is that something that they do yet, or?
So a lot of the textbook resources that we have right now, we have in print textbooks, so science and social studies, we have print textbooks, and then we also have the digital aspect for the students as well. And those resources currently that we have do have the option to be read aloud in English or translated. We've used different things, different resources that can read aloud and translate and support that need. When it comes to the ELA curriculum adoption resources, some are textbooks as well, and they have digital aspects. We haven't heard from the one that does, that's tomorrow, but the Wit and Wisdom, which we heard from last a couple weeks ago, actually, they have an entire supplemental book that is all supporting English learners and multilingual learner supports and things like that. So usually, I mean, you can ask any resource, they'll always say in the teacher's manual it's embedded with like EL strategies or how to support differentiated learners. And
I was just going to ask about differentiate it when you are trying to keep kids on track who are in a classroom that has multi-needs, that there's availability.
And there's different aspects. So tomorrow's presentation, that resource does have leveled readers that go along with it.
Which ones?
It's McGraw-Hill, so it's Wonders and OpenSync or StudySync, I'm sorry. And so they have like the approaching, the on level, the beyond level, and those types of readers. Other ones, they go back to that practice that you might be familiar with. Your kids have probably come home and talked about like just finding a just right book for them. And that's that differentiated supportive at the child's learning level. And then the teacher would do an instructional level that's like a grade above their grade level, by one, or their level, not grade level, but by one level. So everyone is doing it very differently. And they support those components very differently. Some it's a different supplemental book that needs to be purchased or included. Some are embedded in the teacher's manual that are just teaching strategies. So different practices that you would do, I always throw out the visual, that some might have
starter.
sentence starters, visual, those things, they'll throw those in the teacher's manual. Like that's a good time to say, I agree with you because ... and throw that out there. One of the things that I'll say is Caroline has shared a wealth of knowledge with all of our staff, no matter if they're, EL certified or gen ed certified teachers, on what they can do in the different tiers of students to support like beginning language learners or, students who are just kind of on that cusp of getting more language behind them to get, more English reading and accessible to that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot though. So, and I have samples. And of course, as we go through the process, I'll keep you in the loop on what we are piloting and have a bunch of samples in the basement. If anybody-
We'll bring them up.
Yes.
No one needs to go down to the basement.
Yeah, I'll bring them up for you, but I would love to share and have those available for you to see. We're hoping to really have 2 pilots that are a little bit different so that we can get this, real scope of what's out there. And I really think the teachers would love to have an extra year to be able to pilot more and more and more, because it's just every resource is so different. It's going to be hard to really even pin down just the 2 that we are looking at. And then 4.3, I do have another. I just wanted to share with the board that on Monday, we had our new staff, our mentees, for their first, new staff meeting. They meet every month. From 3:30 to 5, and Sherry Murphy from Quantum Learning was here, and she met with the staff, and she does wonderful things. She meets with Adam and I prior to, and kind of gets an idea of what we're looking for. And, I just said, really, they need that, building up, as a community of new staff in the district and giving them time to kind of talk about how the beginning of the year is going. And then, of course, just really great, versatile learning, teaching strategies that they can implement in their classroom, or we have social workers, and trying to meet all of their needs in the time. And so she shared a survey with us that Dr. Thorne sent out to them today. So we're looking forward for that feedback, because Sherry will be coming out in October to meet with them again, just to kind of continue that kind of positive kind of community building within their new staff.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, on to 5.0, Chief School Business Officials Report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 5.1 is our construction update, and all of our projects that we have been going on for the last several months are certainly substantially completed. However, there are a few issues that are still on the punch list. Construction Solutions is our main contractor, and they keep going around the buildings and knocking things off their punch list. We still do meet as an admin group on Wednesdays to go over those lists to make sure we're moving forward with that. And then there is still some issues with the automation, the heating, the cooling, and the extreme temperatures have really not been our friend lately. But they're working on that. And then also issues still with the intercom system. I know Ridgelawn in particular took the time to test each one of their rooms and offices and created a rather long list of concerns. So something we will be bringing up with them again tomorrow. And then we've had some door issues, whether it is with locks and hardware, and that actually stems from two of our projects. The one project, which was the exterior door project, that was a different vendor. There has been some miscommunication with what type of locks should be going in there, how they should be keyed. But then also with Construction Solutions, some of the hardware on the classroom doors has been an issue. And on Friday, the architect walked around with the vendor, both vendors, and made a complete list of every single door that has an issue, and has told us that they would be addressing them much sooner than later. Yeah. Okay, 5.2 food service. The food service program is up and running. And, yes, oh my gosh, and overall, I think it is just so well received by both students and staff. We've actually gotten like emails from teachers to saying, wow, this is really great. The menu is much more kid friendly. I don't think we're ever going to see a teriyaki chicken leg on there anymore, which I think is good. We're seeing Bosco sticks and pizza and things kids really want to eat. So I'm kind of excited about that. Volume has been up slightly compared to last year. We're still hoping it gets a really good push to get our kids to eat. Remember, now they have a salad bar issue every day at lunch, and they also have a hot and a cold option at lunch, which they never had before. Now, we also have to remember that this was only a one-year agreement. It was called an emergency non-competitive agreement. So, which means in December or January, we go out for a competitive bid. We put our bid specifications out there. We tell the world what we want, and we invite people to, or vendors rather, to bid on that. And there is no longer the requirement of mandatory having to take that lowest bid, which is really, really a good thing. Okay, any questions on construction or food service before we move on?
Kathy, I just want to thank you for doing the legwork.
Oh, thank you guys.
Service, because it was
Yeah.
garbage, and now It's not.
I,
I'm so grateful.
yeah, and I appreciate it, but again, the board members, you know, that went out and visited the other schools and just your determination, because we do know this is a more expensive program. But I think as a board, you guys decided this is well worth it, and I totally agree, but thank you.
Like
Okay.
I've said before, sometimes this is the only meal some of these kids
I
eat
know.
all day, and might as well make it something that
I know,
they can
They
enjoy
actually
and
eat.
that will actually eat.
agreed,
Well, and I
agreed.
also heard from parents that there has not been one day where they had to change the menu at the last
Mhm.
minute, that was very consistent. So there was
Good.
one day they had it. So that was also
Okay.
nice too, because then if you go to school and a kid doesn't like this, they don't want
Right.
to eat it. So there's only been one
Oh, that's
like
good to
lunch
hear.
change as far as I've
Okay.
heard from parents.
And unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever totally get around with that. Supply chain issues, you know, they still kind of play
No,
that
well,
card, but yeah.
errors happen, but that
Yeah.
was a pretty regular thing to the
Yes.
fact that they had McDonald's one day last year.
Right,
So
right.
I
Oh,
feel like
boy.
that is fantastic as
Yeah.
well. And once they realized what Bosco sticks are,
Right.
we had a tutorial at my
Yes.
house about what they were. And
Yeah.
that's, everyone wanted it the
Yeah.
next day.
Yeah, my goal is to serve everybody Bosco sticks on Bosco Day.
Well, they get them in high school.
Okay, so 5.3 Lincoln Way area affiliation. Not so great news here. At the end of August, the affiliation called what they called an urgent meeting. And all of the members went to the school in Crest Hill where the meetings are held. And they gave us the heads up that the reserve balances are dangerously low. And so they gave the board members of options of voting anywhere between an 18% or a 22% annual premium. I'm kind of calling it an assessment fee. Basically, what we were assessed was $317,000 to increase the reserve balance. And all that did out of our piece, of course, everybody got the same assessment based on their participation. And part of being a co-op is you kind of share the good and the bad. So they didn't go back and look at usage. They just said, if your premiums are 20%, you're getting 20% part of this allocation. And what this did is this 317,000 brought us only to 2.5 months of reserve balances. Reserve balances, ideally, you want around 4%. The group obviously was not happy. Part of it because most districts have their budgets done, and the timing was very poor because not our insurance plan is very generous. We don't pass along very many costs other than family to our members. Well, if we did, we don't have the ability to pass that along because premiums were set in April. And when that question was raised, why, they kind of cited July. For some reason, July was 3 times the amount of claims as they budgeted. So that was the sense of urgency. Now, the declining balances was not a surprise. They supplied us with the history, and we knew, we were all excited when we didn't see any increases for several years, even a couple of decreases in our PPO. It's coming back to kind of get us. So what I would really like to do, because this is a huge conversation, and what I would like to do is have a conversation at the October study session where we could kind of brainstorm alternatives of controlling these costs. Because there are a lot of different options, but I really want to make sure we have enough time to go through those options, and we have plenty of time because our next renewal would be September of next year. Because this is not the end of this. And so, and I'm not saying it's just our co-op, it's all cooperative. But so that will definitely be on the agenda for October. Seriously.
Has any of it been, because didn't we have some people that left the co-op?
Yes, we did actually.
Did that have- did that- is that
Lincoln
some of
Way.
the
Yeah.
movement?
So Lincoln Way was one of the biggest members, hence the Lincoln Way area affiliation, who are not with us anymore. And when we met with Assurance back in August, what they had told us was, in the reserve balance, they included the Lincoln Way balance in the reserve, but they were kind of self-insured. So that reserve balance, if you looked at it as a whole, was overstated. Mhm. Yeah. Does that make sense, Joy? You look, yeah,
Yeah, it makes sense what you're saying. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
You are
with the
correct.
design.
on how it was
On
presented.
their- Yeah,
Yes.
dum-dums.
So a very, very big issue. I was able to build it into our budget, which will be approved next Monday, but never good news to get that kind of a hit. 5.4 is our contract renewal with our Illinois Energy Consortium. And that is just our annual renewal. And I have to tell you, since the energy prices change so quickly, the contract you have in your packet is for 0.0434 per kilowatt hour. The new one that Dr. Thorne signed today is for 0.0445. Very immaterial, but I did want to disclose that. Oh,
Some math in my head.
right. Very little. Yeah, immaterial. Okay, so 5, 5, 6, and 7, and 8 are all annual housekeeping that we need to just disclose, and then we'll put this on the board on the district website. 5, 5 is the compensation report for administrators for the current year. 5.6 is we are required to disclose any IMRF employee whose total salary package, including benefits, exceeds $75,000. 5.7 is what we call the EIS teacher salary and administrative report that requires us to share last year earnings for those job classifications. Hazardous bus routes, since we get reimbursement for our tuition, every year we have to have those, excuse me, those routes approved, and there has been no change in the hazardous routes. And then finally, 5.9, we'll ask the board to approve the list of school-sponsored activities for this coming school year. And the other, I actually do have one. The budget hearing which was normally going to be today, will be on September 18th. And that was due to my error in a newspaper publication for the date. So that will be on Monday.
And we'll do that right before we're free with Dr. McGill.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, we do not have any.
Do you have old business?
Nope, we can move right to, I
Anything old
think we can
business?
move right to 7.1.
Okay, so potential board action to approve the Title I, Title II, Title III early childhood preschool for all, IDEA flow through, IDEA preschool, and Title I school improvement grants.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Lebuzik.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
And Mrs. Petrowitz.
Aye. 7.2, potential board action to approve hazardous walking routes for school year 23-24.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder. Mrs. Lebuzik.
Aye.
And Mrs. Petrowitz.
Aye. 7.3, potential board action to approve the school sponsored activity list.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Mrs. Lebuzik.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder. And Mrs. Petrowitz.
Aye. 7.4, potential board action to approve the outdoor educational field trip for 6th grade per board policy 6240.
I will make a motion.
I'll second.
I had one second, I'll go with Mr. Medina. Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mrs. Lebuzik.
Aye.
Mr. Schroeder. Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Petrowitz.
Aye. 7.5, potential board action to approve bullying policy.
I'll make a motion. Sorry.
I'll second.
Mrs. Lamb.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Lebuzik.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder. Mrs. Petrowitz.
Aye. 7.6, potential board action to approve the contract renewal with Illinois Energy Consortium.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Lano.
Aye.
Mrs. Lebuzik.
Aye.
Mrs. Petrowli.
Aye. Potential board action to approve, 7.7, I'm getting intimidated by that number already, I told you guys. All right, potential board action to approve payment to Construction Solutions of Illinois in the amount of $272,861.61 for building additions and renovation work done at Ridgeline School.
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Lano.
Aye.
Mrs. Lebuzik.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
And Mrs. Petrowli.
Aye. 7.8, potential board action to approve payment to Construction Solutions of Illinois in the amount of $345,851.28. Not as good for building additions and renovation work done at Ridge Central and Finley Junior High School.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Medina on the second, Mrs. Lebuzik.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
Mrs. Grove.
Aye.
Mrs. Lano.
Aye.
Mrs. Petrowli.
Aye. 7.9, is there other?
I do not have any, nope,
8.0, meeting reports.
no,
8.1, another other.
nope,
9.0, informational.
nothing.
9.1, another other.
Keep it rolling.
All right, 10.0, opportunity for visitors to speak. All right, 11.0, president's prerogative. And I am gonna talk, which I love to do, but more importantly, to say thanks. I was not here for a few meetings over the summer, and this is not a position I take lightly. I had some minor surgery and a very important baseball trip for my son, but it's fantastic to have such a super supportive board who we can all trust each other, and I appreciate the support of everyone in taking over while I couldn't be here. I also just want to say thanks to the teachers and the admin. The start of school is always tricky. We had like a tundra of heat day where I feel like people were dropping and everyone persevered. Some schools even kind of called because of air conditioning, and we made it through. Aside from that, just starting the school year is tricky, getting to know the new students, being back in the swing of things. And I know that admin has been here almost throughout the summer. So I do appreciate all of that from not just the teachers, not just the admin, but all the other staff who put in those extra hours, from the lunch hostesses to, you know, the support staff, to all of the school secretaries, everyone, including the custodial staff. It's just really great to have so many people doing so many good things. These buildings are looking fantastic. It's wonderful to have this extra space to support, you know, kids and staff spreading out. I also want to say that I really appreciate getting to see some of these volleyball games and getting there because, you know, I try to come to them even more so. So our girls team is doing phenomenal. The boys team is doing great as well. I saw them the other day at 171st, I can't remember, Alpine, I don't know. Arbor Park, thank you, ma'am. And so it's just nice to see that. But if you don't have kids involved in activity, the PTA is so instrumental to making a community feel. So really, I really hope that parents step forward and try to be a part of that. You know, those open house kind of nights where they do the movies and the bingo and everything else. It's a great way to get communities together. And so I hope that we can do more of that. But other than that, it's just a thanks and good luck on a great start to the year. And I appreciate everything.
Thank you, Mrs. Petropoulos.
All right.
We are looking for a motion to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of the discussion of the employment compensation, discipline, performance or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with its act as defined in the Open Meetings Act, Section 2C1. The discussion of collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or the representatives or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees as described in Section 2C2. The discussion of security measures and the use of personnel and equipment to respond to an actual, a threatened, or reasonably potential danger to the safety of employees, students, the staff, the public, or public property as defined in section 2C8. And the discussion of minutes of prior meetings lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act as defined in section 2C21 for the purpose of review, approval, or release of such minutes. We will not be discussing any student discipline or litigation during this meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mrs. Lambert.
Aye.
Mrs. Curley.
Aye.
Mrs. Buzzard.
Aye.
Mr. Medina.
Aye.
Mrs. Schroeder.
Aye.
And Mrs. Patrol.
Aye.
Great. Thanks, everybody.